I got to thinking the other day, like, I was talking to my brother and some other people just about horror since the year 2000. Like, what's like some of the best horror movies since the dawn of this century? And, that's a tough question. Hereditary comes to mind, absolutely. There's a ton of movies that come to mind. Hereditary would be at the top of the list, but when I was really boiling it down, The Devil's Rejects has to be really high from my list. I mean, it really does. Taking my Rob Zombie fandom out of it, it's a movie that really, I can't think of much people, even the Halloween Rob Zombie haters, and I'm not here to argue that kind of thing at all, but like just calling it what it is, the people that hate the Rob Zombie Halloween movies, even those people, it seems like they say, hey, you know what, like Devil's Rejects though, like, and what really solidified my idea that Devil's Rejects is probably one of the best of this era is when Three from Hell came out. I went on the night where you would go and they would play Devil's Rejects and then Three from Hell. And I remember going to the theater. I was so excited to see Three from Hell because I was such a fan of the Firefly trilogy, Baby and Otis and Captain Spaulding. And little did I know when I left that theater that night, the truth is watching Devil's Rejects in the theater again was the most insane experience ever. Because I was too young to see it in theater when it initially came out. And I just remember being mesmerized by this film that I had seen dozens of times and still having all those feelings that I think Rob was intending the audience to have. Being able to laugh at certain moments, but being able to feel just real dismay and just despair. I mean, it's a nasty film. It's a film that is, and it's also purposeful, I think. I think that was one of the films where Rob literally just put his best foot forward with everything. Everything. It's close to perfect. I mean, it really is close to perfect. I tried to think about, Christian, before you do a video talking about why you think Devil's Rejects is really one of the best films since the dawn of this century, really be your devil's advocate. Say why it isn't. And I really couldn't come up with much of a list. The vulgarity thing, it works so well for this film because of the world that it created, the original world that it created, and those characters, the family. There's something about the family that it's like you can love them so much, but they're so despicable that in the same breath, you want them to just be put away and horrible things happen to them. And I'll never forget the scene where they hold the traveling rodeo band hostage in the motel room, and Otis just has his way with one of them, and it's just difficult to get through. It's so painful, but it's so real. Because a horrible moment like that in life, you can imagine if you go through something horrible in life, it seems so excruciatingly long. And every time I watch that sequence with Otis and the woman, it feels like it never ends. It just feels like it never ends. And it's so despicable, But then they have these amazing lines. I am the devil, and I am here to do the devil's work. As much as I love Chop Top, I gotta think that The Devil's Rejects is probably Bill's greatest horror performance. I don't know. But what really makes the movie so amazing to me was the ability to choose sides. And I was always a Sheriff Whitell's side. I was always with him. I was always with the sheriff. I wanted to see him get revenge for his brother who died in House of a Thousand Corpses. And it would have been one thing if there would have just been this good guy in the movie. And this is what happens so often, it seems like, in horror movies, where you've got these great villains and they're despicable, they do bad things, and you've got this cop who wants revenge and to do good things, but they're just flat, dull nothingness. They're nothing. But this sheriff is amazing. they give him so much depth and personality, and he wants revenge so bad he can taste it when he gets Mama Firefly, and you just see him just in her face, and he's intense. And God, those scenes, every scene with him is impeccable. He's far and away my favorite character in the movie, and I always ultimately take his side. And you know, it's one of those things where I can't think of a whole lot of movies like The Devil's Rejects that does that, where you can take sides and there's really no right or wrong, because that Firefly family is so amazing, and Captain Spaulding really comes into his own in this movie. And you know, it's funny, he seems like the most tame character, or the most sane. Like, you could almost maybe reason with him a little bit. You ain't reasoning with Otis. And Otis is just this maniacal, deadly, crazy son of a gun, and Baby just pretends to be the one that you can reason with, but she's really just as evil. And then all the characters that surround them with Ken Foray, and oh man, it's amazing. When I really boiled it down in my head, I was like, this is one of the best 70s movies made in the 2000s. I mean, everything about it, everything about that movie just is pure 70s magic to me, and it was made in 2005. Truly remarkable. You know, in some sense, you could take that, make this like almost like this timepiece movie, and it's like almost like this A24 level sadistic, cannibalistic hillbilly horror movie, because of how well it replicates that time. Oh man. And then with Danny Trejo and Diamond Dallas Page as the mercenaries, it's just perfect. And you know, looking back, I hate to be that guy, because I still like 3 from Hell, but I ultimately think maybe it was such a good ending, maybe we should have ended it there. Although in 3 from Hell, it's so great to see Sid Haig get that moment with his character right before he passed. And I really ultimately wouldn't change it, but at the same time, that ending is so perfect. It's one of those movies where it's got everything, I think. It's got everything in it. Really, when I think about it, maybe I'll get it in this video in the comment section, but when I think about it, I really can't. It's also one of those movies that just breaks that glass ceiling and becomes a movie that everybody can truly just say, that was good. That was really good. Because I'm thinking about it, I really can't think of anybody that's ever said, I hate Devil's Rejects. I can't. Ebert and Roper gave it 2 thumbs up. They said, this movie's insane, but I was very entertained by it because you really get engulfed in that world. And so yeah, when I think about it, I think that The Devil's Rejects is very possible to be a contender for one of the best horror films since the dawn of this century. It seems to keep lasting, and it's the one Rob Zombie film where I think everybody can come together and say, yeah, he got that one right. He got that one right. And will he ever top it? Maybe not. But I think it's cool that, you know, Rob, he did it. He made one of those films that it just seems like, for the most part, I mean, everybody can give it 2 thumbs up. I mean, there's so much stuff about The Devil's Rejects that's just so good. And the music, too, it's just, you know, it's one of those things, man. I think that The Rejects is just one of those movies that is probably going to stand the test of time, ultimately more so than any other movie he's done. I really think so. You could go so many ways with that movie, man. You could go with the Firefly family up until the end, or you could take the sheriff's side, which I just always take the sheriff's side. He wins me over, especially after the scene where he gets pissed off because somebody doesn't say Elvis's name. Like, the guy makes fun of Elvis, he loses it. I mean, there's so many characters, like I said, there's so many times where the good guy is just this flat nothing, and you just, but every character in this movie is great. So I think Devil's Rejects is going to last. I really think it's going to last, man. So yeah, I mean, maybe a bold statement, but I think a lot of you would probably agree with me. I think The Devil's Rejects is probably one of the best films since the dawn of this century. So we'll see. There's going to be more, but for now, I think that's one of them. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching.